distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen.
We will not be using the word William Mackey no more. I want to welcome everyone to the B.K. Mackey History Club. We meet here every other Wednesday in honor of Minister Khalid, H. Brown, Gil Noble, Professor Mackey, Amos Wilson, Louis Ray Rivera, Brother Hassan, El-Haj Malik Al-Shabazz, the late great attorney Alton Maddox, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Ivan Van Sertima, Leola Maddox, who drove a gas consumption car all the way from Teaneck, New Jersey to the United African Movement because she believed in bringing people together for the lectures. We never want to forget Miss Leola Maddox. So I want everybody to give themselves a great big hand for joining in on the Zoom for the B.K. Mackey's History Club. Now we're going to bring the camera over to the Amos collection. These books is to help Brother Sababu in African info system. We try our best to help Sababu continue the work of Amos. So we're going to have the camera zoom in to Amos's classic, Blueprint for Black Power. Then we're going to go over to Black on Black Violence, the psychodynamics of black self-annihilation in service of white domination. And in one form or another, we are still dominated by white folks. The psychology of self-hatred and self-defeat toward a reclamation of the African mind. Awakening the natural genius of black children. The falsification of African consciousness. African-centered consciousness versus the New World Order. Issues of manhood in black and white. Louis Ray Rivera, Jazz in Jail. S.K. Damiani, Distorted Truths, the Bastardization of African Cosmology. So we have these books, family, to help Brother Sababu and African World Info System. But I want to put a special thanks to Louis Ray Rivera, who used to come down to the class and speak for hours. And we would walk him home. Me, Brother Sar, Calvin, Colvin, and we would walk him home and he would still talk for an hour and a half, and he worked. He lived right there on Jefferson Avenue. And he come out of Marcy, knew my whole family, and may he rest in peace. Louis Ray Rivera. So we have these books, in good, bad, or indifferent. We are still dominated in one form or fashion, white domination. And Amos goes beyond the call of duty for a reclamation of the African mind. And sometimes it doesn't happen so quickly. It takes a whole lot of time. I'm going to name some books. And this is for the audience to read. Do your research. Because that's what the historians was about. And anytime you didn't believe it, you read the book. Everywhere you look, one thing the Democratic Party has given us is medical marijuana. And they got these weed stores and everybody's opening them. They even have financial classes, the way you could get money to open up a business, and you could open up a weed shop. The name of the book is Dope Incorporated. Lyndon LaRouche. And Soros is a big part of that, and nobody mentions Soros. They stand in front of the weed spots more than they stand in front of the liquor stores. Everybody's smoking. And when I say everybody, all colors, all races, they're just walking down the street smoking. It's disgusting. And during the old days, you smoked you a joint, and all you did was laugh at people and went and look for a big plate of food. You don't see none of that today. Okay, African Echoes. That Friday group with Brother Trust Graham and the gang there. Africans or Americans, Black identity and political activism in New York, 1784, 1861. We paid a lot of dues in this country, so I want to thank the African Echoes family for mentioning this book and Brother Trust Graham. And he also mentions Nzinga of Angola, the warrior sister. And if we read this book, a lot of the sisters would read about her. They would find out that she was definitely in it. They wasn't taking advantage of her like they're taking advantage of our sisters today. African slavery in Latin America and the Caribbean. So it's not just reparations in America, it's reparations globally. This book talks about that. Thank you, Doc. In honor of Cynthia McKinney. When China sneezes, Cynthia McKinney basically stated that they have finally came out with something that's taking a lot of people out and nobody's making a federal case. Nobody's up in arms about what's happening. So when you read Cynthia McKinney's book, When China Sneezes, from the Corona lockdown, geopolitical, and with all the degrees she has, she can't even work in America. She's out of the country. Cynthia McKinney. So when Donald Trump made that statement, S-whole countries, Cynthia McKinney went beyond the call of duty, and she wrote a book, edited, How the U.S. Creates S-whole countries. So it's a reason behind that statement. But if you get the book, our sister Cynthia, who in my personal opinion was the only one that cared about the people of Georgia, Cynthia McKinney, and she is working out of the country. And she had more heart than any of the people down in Georgia. The African Echoes family, the destruction of black civilization, Brother Trust Graham and the Know Thyself Study Group, Chancellor Williams. In this book, he tells us how the mistakes we made in the continent of Africa, from the Arab slave trade. And if you read this book and go into the index, you'll find out we talk about getting together here, we wasn't together there. And Chancellor Williams talks about the dope game, how they dumped the drugs in the black community. And if you go to that old episode on Gil Noble, Chancellor Williams will explain the meeting that they had with the government and organized crime to dump the drugs in the black community during one of the strongest periods of revolt and revolution for the African American. And it was a well-orchestrated plan, from the $2 capsules to strung out, then cracked, and all this other stuff. If you get that tape on like it is, Chancellor Williams explained it. So we salute Brother Chancellor. Our brother Ayo Kamati, The Irritated Genie. His 2 blockbuster books, Jews Are the Problem, and The Jews Are the Problem Too, The Psychology of the Jew. We want to thank Ayo for these 2 books, and he did an excellent job. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Ivan Van Sertima, black man of the Nile and his family. Dr. Ben went beyond the call of duty on how they built in the different cataracts and the great builders in Africa. In this book, Dr. Ben is, may he rest in peace. Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark. Ladies and gentlemen, the man behind the curtain. If you don't read about this guy, I really feel sorry for you. The man behind the curtain, the secret network of George Soros, the shadow party, how Soros, Hillary Clinton, and 60s radicals took control of the Democratic Party. You have to read about this guy because he has his tentacles all over. Elon Musk, everybody got to talk about Musk. Read about the Musk man. Read the books. And when you read the books, you find out stuff that they don't tell you on media. So everybody they got two good bags out in New York. It's called the Trump bag and the Musk bag. And everybody jumping on it. One of the greatest investors of all time. Collapsed countries. The life and times and trading secrets in the book states of the world's greatest investor, George Soros. So when you want to learn about investing in what this guy is into and how he made all his money, is able to buy everybody and finance armies and do things, read Soros. A lot of people don't want to look at it. The new phenomenon, reparations. And if you read this book, you'll find out the phenomenon with reparations. This new thing on reparations. But it seems like nobody has this book. Nobody has this book about the hangings, the lynchings without sanctuary, the postcards, the cutting the heads off, the hanging, the barbecues. You don't need no study. As my good friend from Baltimore always say, if any race of people that ever been studied in America, we have been studied more than anybody else. So they must don't have this book. They always doing studies on us. I remember they used to take they said they used to take a razor blade, and the darker you was, they would carve the skin and see how many slices of skin that they can carve off of the African to see when his skin will turn to flesh. They must have been got the book. Another study. Every 2 minutes is a study. The manufacturing of a president, the CIA insertion of Barack Hussein Obama into the White House. So they're writing books exposing these people. Dr. Scott Whitaker, medicine. The causes and solutions in disease to malnutrition and the medical sins that are killing the world. Anthony Fauci, they just said it's starting up again. Read about Anthony Fauci. Capitalism on a ventilator. How all the money they made off of ventilators. The American pharmacy killing machine. Finding facts that could save your life. I want to thank Children's Health Defense. Kennedy, like them or not, the books are here. Down the CO rabbit hole.
Somebody give me a towel, maybe.
Okay, can you mute yourself? I want to thank Sister Filet for having Brother Issa blacklisted, The Price for Speaking the Truth. Excellent book. Already on the news. China. Something's happening from China and already coming to America. The Wuhan cover-up. Rand Paul, deception. The great CO-19 cover-up. Yo, Doc, you ready? Vax versus unvax. And this is a blockbuster because they finally stated 2 days ago that Pfizer and Moderna has to put the risk of taking the vax, and it's all on social media, and they have to put the ages and the side effects. But this is a book by Edwin Down, The Epidemic of Sudden Death, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. It's still happening every time you turn around, and all the young guys, the football players, in the prime of their life, collapsing on the field. The pictures are here. Edward Dow, I want to thank him. And he has a DVD I heard on Rumble. All these players was young athletes. Gone. The book is right here. It's on Amazon. Naomi Wolf and them Pfizer wanted to wait 75 years for this information. I don't know when I'm going to get to this book and even understand it. But they wanted to come, they didn't want to come bring this out, and through the Freedom of Information Act, they forced them. Moderna is coming out with their book that they forced them through the Freedom of Information Act. Everything is here. And this is the last book that I just wound up getting, The Ultimate Vaccine Timeline. Shaz Khan, and is forwarded by MD Pierre Corey. The Ultimate Vaccine Timeline. And in this book, it starts out on everything about vaccines. Different. In the first year, it states the serums and everything. In the first year, they're going back is 570, 1003. In history, 1899, 1948. This is a timeline on how they initiated vaccines in general. So these books that you get, whether you believe them or not, you get the books and you read them and whatever. I don't know when I'm going to finish these, but I know I've been reading them. So I'm going to say some community events that's going on. Thorough Black Talk. Tad, Keisha, Tad, Keisha, Brother Blacksmith, Sister Mama, and there's another addition to that Thorough Black Talk Blockbuster Thursday program, Sister Brooke, and they have an excellent program. It's one of the hottest shows on the East Coast. Sister Empress Chi, Brother Lumumba, El Pollinator, and our Philadelphia Connection, Blog Talk Radio. That comes on 10 o'clock. It comes on Zoom, and you could call in 1319-527-6189. And Sister Empress had an excellent program on there the other day with this sister that's following through on the reparations movement. So I want to thank our Philadelphia Connection. But that's Saturday, when everybody's partying, we on listening and giving Sister Filet some reporting the Millions Women's March. Okay, Ayo Kamati, the Irritated Genie, comes on every Monday at 10 o'clock on Sankofa Revolutionary Radio. And they have a double header from 9 to 10. You have Herbal Results with Dr. Haru, and from 9 to 10, and he's looking at investments directly into Burkina Faso through the Bank of Burkina Faso. And then from 10 to 11, you have Ayo Kamati, the Irritated Genie, in his program, that's Sankofa Revolutionary Radio. Our Baltimore Connection blockbuster, Darren Muhammad, State of the City. He comes on sometimes Wednesdays, on Thursdays, on YouTube and Instagram on the State of the City. And he's a bad man. He's coming in with all information. Second coming of Steve Copley. May he rest in peace. Time is 12 o'clock on Saturday and sometimes 8 o'clock on Wednesday or Thursday. But the Saturday program is excellent, and you can get information on the Wednesday and Thursday with our blockbuster powerhouse, Darren Muhammad, bad man. Thank you, Brother Darren. Also, Dr. Aline, Your Immunity Project. He's always coming up with some good stuff. He comes on at 3 o'clock. Dr. Aline, Your Immunity Project, but he gives you a double header. The 3 o'clock program is live, and then the rebroadcast comes on at 7 o'clock p.m. So Dr. Aline is really laying down some scientific evidence on health and the one now. Big ups to Dr. Aline. Also, African Echo Study Group with Brother Trust. I'll get to you. I'll get to your questions after.
I just want that information in the chat, please.
Yeah, I'll get to your questions after. We got it. Okay. Our African Echoes family with Brother Trust Graham and the gang out of Newark. African Echoes, come on, 8 o'clock on Friday. Long discussion, good, bad, or indifferent. Disagreements, not disagreements. But we have good discussion. But not only do they give you that blockbuster on a Friday, they come back with the Know Thyself study group out of Asbury Park. Brother True and the gang. Trust is also the mediator of that group. So they're doing the psychology of self-hatred, and he talks about great black women in history, and then you do the destruction of black civilization. So that's big ups to both study groups, good, bad, or indifferent. The Simultap organization with Dr. Mack, Sister Richard Dean, Theodore, and the fight with Netflix. And Nat Disgusting and Betty Dobson and all the other organizations that support Dr. Mack, the Garvey movement, Brother Raymond, and support Dr. Mack on what Netflix is doing with that disgusting they reprogram the Good Times television, and it's disgusting. So that fight is on, the marches, the protests. I want to thank the Simultap organization and all the organizations. The B.K. Mackey History Club comes out and helps them. So we are fighting, because if you think you're going to get something, you get nothing from people that don't respect you. If they don't respect you, they ain't giving you nothing. So thank you, Simultap, and the other organizations that come through with that. The Garvey movement, UNIA, Brother Raymond, General President Michael Duncan, and the UNIA meets. So you join the UNIA, and they have a store called The Rock. And every third Sunday, we're trying to bring people. It's going to take a long time, and myself included, to get us out and to go into the other stores. But I've been going past that and going out to The Rock, and that store is on Merritt Boulevard, right across the street from Walmart, from Home Depot on Merritt Boulevard. So when you join The Rock, it's a mini Jetro's, everything wholesale. Excellent. So you don't feel too bad giving your money to your folks. So the 5th Annual International African Arts Festival, Friday, July 4th to Sunday the 6th at Commodore Park, which is Navy Park, what we called it in the old days. Also, the fight, why we Haitians continue to protest against the Clintons and what they have going on. So, the tribute to the ancestors is the second Saturday in June, and in July, they're going to have a tribute to John Henry Clark, and the UNIA will have a week in Brooklyn celebrating Garvey. Invest by Black. So those are just community events and information for our listening audience. So as of now, you will be able to, until I change it, all lectures will be under B.K. Mackey History Club. B.K. Mackey History Club is the new name of the group. Until I change the videos, all the videos have to be transferred. It is no longer the William Mackey Jr. History Club. It's the B.K. History Club, African Helping Africans. That is the new name of our study group. So we are still rolling strong, and we will also include the late, great Professor Mackey in our talks. We just will not be using his name. It's the B.K. Mackey History Club. So ladies and gentlemen, the big talk about Burkina Faso and lbrahim, well, Dr. Lewis has did a 11-part series on the continent of Africa and its riches and the thieving and the natural resources and economics, but things is on the move. And he's going to continue with his information. He's always been a great friend for the Mackeys group. Ladies and gentlemen, give a great big hand to our good friend and noted scholar, Dr. Arthur Lewis. Get you home.
Good evening, African community. I am privileged and honored to be given the opportunity to speak to the African community using this mechanism and using the mechanism of the study group. Today's presentation is going to comprise a handout that is 10 pages. The handout contains 2 or 3 maps and charts. It will also contain some written material. In the construction of this presentation is such that what we are attempting to do is to bring information on different topics, but also to have written material for those individuals who want to do further studies, and also for those individuals who want to be able to expand their knowledge here. So I have in front of me the 10-page portfolio, and also I have another set of pages in front of me. And then the pages on my right, it's a few items that I've written down so that I wouldn't forget what I want to say. Okay. And from these pages here, I will read. Again, as we say, that's the format. Everybody uses a different format. Here, and then we're going to get into the 10-page handout. As I indicated before, the format that I use is one of written material, so you can have it in your hand, and if you're interested, you can do further research. Any information that I'm giving you comes from a number of different sources that are in the public domain. So as I always say, I don't have any privy information. I'm not part of any organization or government institution where I have to censor what I say. Okay. After I read these beginning notes, I will go through the 10 pages to show you how it's broken down, so that it's structured in such a way that we can make the presentation within a half an hour. Okay. What I would like to do is to acknowledge Ray, his wife, his sister, and all of his crew for giving us the opportunity to speak to you, because if it wasn't for his group to put these on to maintain the logistics, we wouldn't be able to talk to you. So I have to give Ray and his crew a recognition and a thanks that it's still going. Also, I give thanks to any and all of our African community who are able to come out to participate. So the way I've structured this is I'm going to read. I have notes for to help me remind me of what I want, comments I want to do before we do the handout. So we acknowledge Brother Ray, his family, his crew. The second thing I'd like to say is we're going to deal with, in the presentation, we're dealing with the United States of America because we live here. And we want to give a view of what the United States of America was and is. Only factual material that anybody can look up, and whoever lived in this country know what I'm saying, their experience. So I don't give the name of the individuals who give me this saying and information, but I get it from multiple sources. So this is what I want to open up by saying. The United States of America, based upon what one of my good friends reminded me of, is made up of stolen land and stolen people. So let's get the record straight. This is stolen land and stolen people. The second issue that I wanted to just highlight was reparation. And it's just something for you to think about. When I was in Harlem recently, a friend of mine and I were talking about so-called reparation, and then another elder came in and he joined the conversation. And then he asked me, what is my definition of reparation? I'm assuming reparation for the African people for what our ancestors have done to build a country. And it sidetracks when you see the inauguration presentation of President Trump, which was 99% white, even though he said he thanks the African and the Spanish community for helping him get there. He mentioned that the Panama Canal was built by us and that this was done by us. But they don't give any specific information because of my understanding, and you will correct me, the Panama Canal was primarily physically and in many other ways built by people who lived in the Caribbean. They were predominantly people of color. So I don't know what he's talking about. And the question that I want to put out is all of these billionaires that we have in the United States, which are primarily men and white Anglo-Saxon men. Okay. Billionaire, billionaire, billionaire. So the question I'm asking, what did your grandfather, grandmother, mother and father and great-grandmother bring to this country to be a billionaire? Are you forgetting that the United States is built up of stolen land and stolen people? So that's the question I want to bring to them. Everybody takes credit for building it up. We built this, our people built it. Nobody specific. And they don't talk about these billionaires and white people who run the country. They don't talk much about their grandfathers and grandmothers because maybe they don't have anything to say about what they contribute to this land. So in this discussion on reparation, I said, my contribution is I will go to whoever is now considered the indigenous people who now live in what you call the United States of America, that line that they drew, because we're dealing with the United States of America. But it refers to Canada or any other, Australia, anything else. And I said, I would go to the indigenous people who live here, whatever they look like, because the evidence that the indigenous people who live here were people of color. Call them whatever you want. And I would say to them, what I would offer to them is I'm handing over my definition of reparation to these individuals, and then let the individuals who are indigenous decide who the hell they want to stay here and who the hell they want to go out. And the elder asked me, no, we can't do that. I can't leave here. I said, but technically, you're living off of what is here belonging to the indigenous people, and the African people built the country. Most of the inventions we made here. So, you know, I listen to white people say, well, they're white, and you know, America is great and this is great. But I don't ever hear them giving recognition to the fact that if it wasn't for the theft of the indigenous land and it wasn't for the theft of African people, you wouldn't have had what you call the United States of America. So that's my definition of reparation. Let them decide who they want and who they don't want. The other thing I want to mention is the issue of the attitude of people who call themselves white in the United States. And I always bring up, and I made my note here, the issue of Michael Moore and Cornel West, when my wife and I and a few of us went to, I think it's I forgot the city college that's on 68th Street, Hunter College Auditorium. And it was filled with about 300, 400, or 500 people, human beings. And Michael Moore and Cornel West was on the stage. And when you look around, you can see only maybe the 20 or 30 people who have enough complexion to be called non-white. And the discussion got around to the United States of America. And I've said this before, but I want to introduce it. Michael Moore said Michael Moore and Cornel West was on the stage, and Michael Moore said, let me tell you how we white people think. He said, okay, you know how African people function, but let me tell you, I'm going to ask a question. And I mentioned this before, but it's very powerful because it shapes my attitude on those people who live in the United States. And then whoever comes in, they know damn well why they come here. Because this country is as racist, in some way as Nazi, as that thing they call in Germany, because they know they can come and whatever the system have in place, they will be able to benefit from it on your back. So Michael Moore wanted to illustrate that point. So he said to Cornel West, look, let me tell you how we white people are. I'm going to ask a question. I only want white people to answer the question. He asked, why is it, how did he say it? Why do we white people find it necessary to mistreat black people and people of color in the United States? Silence, and he said only white people answer. About 2 or 3 minutes, silence. He asked the question a second time. Why do we white people find it necessary to mistreat black people, African people, people of color in the United States? Still no answer. And then he asked it the third time. So he said, you see, they know what they're doing. They know who they're doing it to. America's great. That's what they say. So that's just my few points that I want to bring up here. I'm going to go through this 10 pages to show you how quickly and what we're going to do to finish within half an hour. But after I show you what's in the 10 pages, I want to go to a small clip that I happened to pick up on Canada. Here is page 1, our famous one that I bring, Smedley Butler. I'm going to read it. Takes 2 minutes. The second page is the page that deals with the study that 2 universities did dealing with whether the government of the United States action, domestic and foreign, in any way benefits the masses of people. I'm not going to read it, but it's for me to say, so there's no way to get it. So that's the first 2 pages. The third page is a map of Africa. In this map, I colored 3 of the Sahel. The Sahel is defined as north, south, west, and east. A group of countries that span the north, that cuts in between Africa in the northern part. On the north is the Sahara Desert, and the south is the savanna land of Central Africa. It's 3 countries that broke away with coups, and they confederated themselves. And that's 2020, 2022, 2023, and that's Mali, Burkina Faso, and Nigeria. Mali, Burkina Faso, Nigeria. 3. But recently, Nigeria is going to join the Sahel. So that will make 4. That whole strip is going to become the Sahel nation. So that's what the map is, to remind you. The 4th is dealing with the tariffs. The 5th page is a schematic of Mexico and Central America, and how they are preparing their global trade, and it does not include the United States. The next page is going to deal with what the country you call Russia. What foreign policy has Russia had to contend with? The same thing Burkina Faso and the Sahel is contending with the United States and Europe trying to overthrow it. They have a similar history. Then the next page is going to be Berlin-Brussels Conference. Why I brought it up is because I heard a young sister on one of the programs say that Russia was in the Berlin Conference. Obviously, she's anti-Russia. And they didn't take colonies because they couldn't. They wanted to, but they couldn't. The fact is, Russia sat there but did not take it. Now, I don't know if she was there in 1885 to know their intent, but she's saying they intended. So I'm not contesting it. But she did also mention Russia role in it played in our liberation struggle. So you conveniently use at least 2 points where Russia interacted with Africa in the last 100 years, but did not deal with the fact that the United States and Europe are the problem of Europe, of Africa. We'll deal with that. The next page we're going to deal with is the what happened with Burkina Faso when they went into Russia in the last week or 2. The following page is going to be a quick comparison of the global power from 1944 to now. The last page is going to be what Burkina Faso, Mali, and Nigeria, the steps they took to break away from the colonial grip. And those pages should take us about 15 or 20 minutes. Because the main thing is to get the material in your hands, to get you to hear it, for us to deliver a response. I can't ask you to respond to something you don't know the subject matter, you don't have the material. The same way you asked me to comment on what they call it, AI. I can't comment on it. I don't have any experience. You'd have to educate me before I can begin to respond. So before we get into the 10, which should take us about 20 minutes to half an hour, this is a clip that I picked up. It's on Canada. In the clip, and I can give the reference, the clip, the moderator is saying there was a time when the African students, African people who wanted to get into Canada to tour, to work, they wouldn't let them in. Wouldn't process the visas. The same old racism. You kill off the indigenous people. And Canada works with the United States against Africa in the liberation. So they don't like black people. All the people don't like who they came from. And then I looked at this the other day, and all of a sudden, Canada has 10 countries that they list as visa-free. The Africans can just come in to show that you're African, and you can slide right in. What happened? In the 10 countries that they made visa-free is Morocco, Mauritius, Seychelles, Botswana, Ghana, Senegal, Kenya, South Africa, Tunisia, Cape Verde. All you people can come in. Mainly young people, 18 to 34, highly skilled. What do you mean highly skilled? And this is what the reason why they said that they're allowing all of these highly skilled Africans to come in. One, they have a demographic crisis. You know what that means? You don't make enough damn babies. The population is shrinking. The population is old. So they want your young people, your highly skilled, your engineers, your doctors and stuff, come on in to Canada. We'll open the door for you. Because we don't have enough doctors to take that we should have. We don't have the educators. We don't have people to run the nursing home. We want, they tell you, you got AI skills, all kinds of these skills. They're making the admission that those white people in Canada, for whatever reason, like the white people here, are not educating their own white population, especially yours. Because the United States, Michio Kaku, the physicist, he was on TV and he made the statement. He says, you put the tariffs on everybody, but almost all of your PhD people in the universities are Indian or Chinese. And most of the upgrade people, he said, how could that be when you have such a large population of young people in this country that you structure it only for the Chinese and Indians to be the PhD, etc., etc. And he said, guess what? They're all going home now. That's your white man for you. So that's what Canada is saying. If we don't have the influx of people, we're going down the drain. They also said, why Africa? They repeated it like we mentioned the other one. He says, Africa, the continent, in 2050, and up to the 21st century, will have 1/4 of all the human beings on earth will be in Africa in the next 30 or 40 years. They all young, they all healthy and educated. That's what they want. They want to now tap in. So as they say, Africa is the continent of the future. You know, we built everybody. That's why we gotta have them. Okay, so let's get into the 10 pages. We should be able to do it in 15 or 20 minutes because I will read certain sections so that the people who don't have it, they can hear. And it is Smedley Butler's On Intervention. Smedley Butler, we did over and over and over, was a white American who came into the, what they call the Marines, and he went up the rank and became a 4-star general. But what's important is he, in his summary, he explains to you what the United States' foreign policy was after the Civil War and up to World War I and World War II. And what they did to make America great. Well, you know, the U.S. can't be great if you don't have the stolen land and you had African people built. Now you got to go out, steal it. That's what he's telling you. So we're going to read so that you understand your government of the United States. Smedley Butler said it. I didn't say it. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to skip it. It says what's important is he's letting you know who's playing the role. And understand the domestic and foreign policy of the United States then and now is run exclusively by white Anglo-Saxon men, the rich ones who got rich here. There ain't no Jews and all this other stuff. White people, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, Dr. Ben tell you in his book. Africa, mother of Western religion. That's Islam, Christianity, Judaism. So ain't nobody got to think about, you can't say something about the Jews because do your history and you will find out maybe those white Jews that in Israel came out of the Khazars in Asia. So we'll deal with that later. So let's get what Smedley Butler says. War is a racket. A racket is best described, I believe, as something that is not what it seemed to the majority of the people. Only a small inside group, that's your ruling class, knows what it's about. It is conducted for the benefit of the very few at the expense of the masses. Okay? And then I'm going to skip the second paragraph. Oh no, I was important. I would go to war again if I had to protect the lousy. He says, I wouldn't go to war again as I have done to protect the lousy investments of the bankers. Now you know who he's talking about. Then we go to the third paragraph. There isn't a trick in the racketeering bag that the military gang is blind to. It has its own figurement to point out our enemy. Oh, we got to go in there and steal Gaddafi's oil. Steal Gaddafi, the oil that belongs to, got to steal their oil and their gold. Okay.
Gangsters.
There isn't a trick in the racketeering bag, I'm just going to read it straight, bag that the military gang is blind to. It has the figurement to point out the enemy, the muscle men to destroy enemies, its brain men to plant war preparation, and its big boss super nationalist capitalist. That's where all the wealth is coming right back to these people here. We're going to jump down to the last paragraph. And it says, who was he doing this to? What period of time was it? 1900. Back it up after the Civil War, 1900, run it forward when the United States was going around the Caribbean, in Central and South America, stealing everything, overthrowing government. Then they decided to go and take Hawaii from the black people. Then they went on to bother with the Filipinos, and then they joined their cousins, the English, in the First and Second Opium War. That's what the United States was doing in the day. And in the middle paragraph, he says, I helped. Now he's telling you who United States raped. I helped, meaning he was the general who went around. I helped make Puerto Rico, especially Tampico, safe for the American oil interests in 1940. I helped make Haiti and Cuba a decent place for the nationalist Citibank boys to collect their revenue. I helped in the raping of a half-dozen Central American republics for their benefit of Wall Street. The record of racketeering is long. I helped purify Nicaragua for the internet banking house of Brown Brothers of Brown, 1909, 1912. Where have I heard that name? He brought light to the Dominican Republic for American sugar industry in 1960. China helped us to see the Standard Oil. That's the first page. Second page. This page here. In your handout, it's yellow, it's red. I'm going to read it so that those who hear, who take notes, where could I pick up this article? The study, U.S. Congress literally doesn't care what you think. They're telling you, your government don't give a darn about you. Then the two stripes will tell you where you can get the reference. It says here, Professor Martin Gillen, Princeton University, and Benjamin Page, Northwestern University, looked at more than 20 years worth of data to answer a simple question. Now these are white men, top scholars. Does the government represent the people? The government is the handful of powerful families and corporations. That's what they talk about. They ain't talking about you. Princeton University study, public opinion has nearly zero impact on the U.S. what they think about you. Okay. We're going to page 3. Again, it's the picture of Africa, the Sahel nation. Now you have Mali, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, and now Chad. These 4 countries alone are equal to 1/3 the size of the United States. And these 3 countries, including Chad, which is joining, has 1/3 of the U.S. population. That's 100 million Africans who are locked in a confederation where they are unified. We go on to the next page. U.S. tariffs. Now, a tariff is what? We in this room, we have a corporation, legal business corporation, and we buy motorcycles. So we buy motorcycles from China, because they don't make them here. And so we contact China and ask China, how much do you sell a motorcycle for? You have to pay, we have to pay the Chinese $100 US for every motorcycle. So we order motorcycles, and then we send China $100 for each motorcycle. Normally we put out 100. Normally we will sell that motorcycle for, say, $150, make 50% profit, right? But Trump puts out this tariff to say, anybody who wants to trade with the United States, you won't pay extra tariff. So now we want to buy the motorcycle from China, but he's putting 100% tariff on the motorcycle. What does it mean? It means that we now have to pay the Chinese 100 for the motorcycle, and we now have to pay another 100 to the U.S. government.
So it's double.
So now our motorcycles no longer cost us.
100.
It now costs us what? 200. We gotta sit down. Can the American people? So now that we have to pay China 100 and give the U.S. 100, we gotta put up 200. Then we assess it. Can the American people afford the motorcycle? Then we come to the conclusion they can't afford it. So do you think we're gonna order it? No. And that's what's happening. All of the things that are coming, the businessmen, which are all white, they decide, if I pay this Can I pass it on to the consumer? When they realize the answer is no, they don't order. Since he put the tariff on China, they say 2 weeks ago, 50% of the ships that come in every day to the western ports
California.
cut to 50%. So that means China, Japan, and South Korea, they ain't sending anything. Why they not sending? Because the American, we're not buying from them because we are not going to pay an extra $100 to the U.S. government because we know that we can't afford it. And then we know where the money's going, right into the government. And Trump says he's doing it because he wants to industrialize the U.S. Now, the big corporations have hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars. They've been stealing from everybody for the last 50 years. Do you think any one of the corporations is going to put $1 to put anything in? Hell no. So Trump and them think that the $100 extra we're going to pay, they're going to put it in their pocket and continue the tax break that he did when he left office. He endorsed. Of course, the Congress passed it because they all put their money. $4 trillion of tax-free income to the biggest corporations and the richest people, all white people. $4 trillion. But when he's telling you, American people, I want to rebuild. Why didn't you take the $4 trillion? You could have taken all of the students off of their student loan. You could have paid off everybody's credit card, give everybody a fresh start, then we can afford to buy. But because we're so tied down, we can't buy a damn thing. So what is happening is they're not sending the ships because we're not buying it, and everybody knows that tariff money is going to go into the U.S. Treasury and it's going to disappear to the military-industrial complex and go back to the big corporations. So you ain't seen a damn dime of it. You think people are stupid? That's what the tariff is about. So what I did was I went through some of the YouTubes and wherever you get this information together. What is the global reaction to these tariffs? Because when the Secretary of Finance was in Congress, they asked him to explain to the American people tariff. He wouldn't. He wouldn't because he would have to lie. Because he'll tell you, just like you read in any book and you understand just what we said. Okay, so what are some of the responses to the tariffs? And the reason that I decided to look at this, because it's giving you an idea of how much the world is no longer trading with the U.S. Africa. So they say, we're going to put tariffs on you. Trump said, we're going to put tariffs on Africa. South Africa. Guess what he didn't put tariffs on? The cobalt, the nickel, and the other minerals. Because if you put a tariff, you need the cobalt, the nickel and stuff to make most of what you did. People are not stupid. So what did the Africans do? What they did was they don't trade with the United States, they start looking at trading with each other and trading with Asians. So it has a new trading partner. They force the African to now say, look, we're going to accelerate building up our railroads and roads and stuff so that we can build up our trade among us. To hell with the United States. They're building up the infrastructure, roads, rails, shipping lanes, energy development. In order for you to industrialize, you got to get energy. So they're going to build up the electric grid. They're going to get nuclear reactors. It's forcing them to do what they should have done. Don't trade with this damn country. Now build yourself up. Energy development, African Continental Free Trade Zone. What did BRICS do? BRICS membership, more people want to join. The trading accelerate, increase use of barter, and decrease use of the U.S. dollar. What is Canada's response? You already see their response. What did they do? They directed their gas and oil sales to China. So Canada used to send a lot of gas and oil down to the United States and said, the hell with you. China will buy it, so you gonna get less gas and less oil, and the thing is gonna go up. Increased tariff, increased trade with the Europeans, the Australians, and South Americans. And reduced purchase of items. They stopped buying US items. Because they don't tell American people that in 1970, official numbers was that the United States, whoever keep these numbers, United States was responsible for 50 to 60% of total global trade in 1970. Because Africa was colonized, Asia was colonized, Europe was beaten down. So 50 to 60% of the global economy United States had at that time. Now it's down to 2%. You ever heard of the Alexander Hamilton Bridge? It had to be rebuilt. But it had to be rebuilt, and you can't shut it down. You go online. No company in the United States could do the job. So they went to the Chinese. The Chinese did the job, kept the lane open. They work at night, and they created jobs. So this country, the industrial base can't repair a bridge. Alexander Hamilton Bridge. Okay. Canada says, okay, you want to tariff us? So what Canada is saying, that heavy oil. You see, United States, when their oil that they drill for is what they call light oil. Because then the oil comes in different grades. You know that tar that you get on the ground, and the heavy oil that you use for diesel, and you put in your furnace, right? So that's a heavy component. But the United States is people who drill, for some reason they got light oil, the stuff you put in your gasoline in your car. You need that heavy oil for diesel. You know, you can make no diesel on your trucks and nothing. It's to heat the home. It's the heat industry. So Canada said, I don't have to sell it to you. I'm selling it to China. China's going to get it all at a cheap rate. And they're going to increase the trade with Europe, Australia, South America, and the region. So the United States is going to lose big there. What is Central America doing? There's a scale here which illustrates. Colombia, Mexico, and Nicaragua are developing an alternate route for trade connecting the Gulf of Mexico and the Pacific. Because most of the trade the world does is not with the United States, don't make anything. The big powers, the most of the industrial capacity is housed in China, Japan, and South Korea. About 10, 15 years, it's going to shift to Africa. But right now, that's where most of the manufacturing is coming. So you'll see a chart here. How is Colombia, Mexico, and Nicaragua planning to bypass the United States? Now remember, Central America and South America has almost 800 million people, almost triple United States. And we can't buy anything anymore, but these countries, they're going to sell. So good market, China is doing. Then, what is China, South Korea, and Japan? Remember, South Korea and Japan used to be under the U.S. because the United States rebuilt them with African stuff. Everything in Europe, everything in South Korea, Taiwan, and Japan, the copper, the wood, everything that goes to build up the country was stolen out of Africa. Even the uranium they dropped, the 2 bombs came out of the Democratic Republic of Congo. So what did the Chinese do? The South Koreans and the Japanese? They say, we're going to join together. We're Asians. Payback. So what did the 3 countries, they said, sat down and said, One, the first economic dialogue of the three in 5 years. They're going to increase, their economic ties are increasing. They're going to have a joint response to the United States. They're going to renegotiate their trade. They're talking about supply chains, export control, free trade agreement, interconnectivity, trade barriers, tariffs, and economic integration. So the American people ain't got no money anymore. If you want a market, the three areas where people need and want things like we got refrigerators, cars, and stuff, that's Asia, Africa, and Central and South America. There's no market in Europe. There's no market here. So it's a good reason to break away. Europe, Mexico, and South Korea, major ports, they all got together, and the major ports that they're not allowing the U.S. ships to come in and dock. So those American ships that want to come to Europe, they can't, because the largest shipping port is the port of Rotterdam in Netherlands. U.S. ships can't dock. Port of Hamburg in Germany, U.S. ships can't dock. The port of India, in India, they can't dock. Pay back, because you screwed royally the Europeans. Veracruz, Mexico, and Port Busan, South Korea. So you have 3 European countries, 1 Mexican, 1 Indian, and 1 South Korean. All countries said, we're not going to let them dock. You really? Trump ain't telling you that. It's 50% reduction. U.S. corporations that are leaving the United States. Walmart, cutting down drastically. They're redirecting whatever you can buy, they redirecting to Central South America. Amazon and Boeing. Boeing is out. They're closing down the first factory. 90 days, they land on 15,000 people, and it's going to be a massive, because they said, we want to do business. Africa. We did. In other words, China said, okay, half of what Boeing made this year went to China. And what did China do? Cancel it. So these companies are leaving. Now, the next page, I think it's page 4. You see this schematic. What it shows you is Mexico, right? You see where Mexico is? And we go down to Nicaragua. And then you see Colombia, right?
Colombia.
In this map, you see north, south, east, and west. You see Panama Canal? You see it's drawn as a straight black line. You see it? That's an actual functioning canal to move things between the Gulf of Mexico and the Pacific, and Pacific and the Gulf of Mexico. But you see the dash line above that in Mexico. You see the dash line in Colombia. So here's Panama Canal, and below is Colombia. Above that is Nicaragua, and above that is Mexico. What the 3 countries have said, we're going to put in an infrastructure that will connect the Gulf of Mexico Pacific and bypass the Panama Canal. Who the hell needs it? Plus, a lot of these super tankers cannot go to the Panama Canal. Now, you see over here, there are ports on the Gulf of Mexico side of Mexico, there are ports on the Pacific side. So what Mexico is doing, they call it the Sierra Madre, the Mother Mountains. See, geologically, these are areas that are low-lying, see, a lot of hills, low-lying and narrow. So in other words, let's take Mexico. You see that dotted line? In the Sierra Madre Mountains, there's a pass called the Chevelle Pass. It's low-lying, and it's only 150 miles from the Pacific, from the Gulf of Mexico to the Pacific. They have a railroad running. So what they're going to do is they're going to upgrade that whole rail line. So they put goods on in the Gulf of Mexico, put the goods on the rail lane, and they bring it to the Pacific. Then they'll do the Pacific and go back. You don't need the Panama Canal. Nicaragua is in the process of doing the same thing. It cuts across the landmass, plus there's a big lake. And Colombia is in China, the Bretton Woods, to cut them a strip. Why? Because each of these countries, Mexico, Nicaragua, and Colombia, they're going to want to do business with each other and Asia without interference of the United States of America. Because the United States of America, we can't buy anything. That's what's coming. And if you look over here, you see China, South Korea, and Japan. All that Asian merchandise is being shunted to Central America and shunted to South America. Not here. Them ships are not coming here. They divert them. Now, China has built a port in Peru. The port is called Port of Chanquete. It's state-of-the-art. Okay? And notice when they put the port there, with rail links, you can get and trade to Ecuador, Brazil, Bolivia, Paraguay, and Argentina. The United States can't even rebuild a damn bridge. The countries are already in the process. The Asian countries, China, South Korea, they already said, hell with the United States. The Central South American countries, they all preparing. We go on. Should be page 5. We have 4 more pages to go, of which we got to do the reading, and it'll take us another 15 minutes because it's here for you to hear what's going on. The United States started instigating this war with Ukraine, to use Ukraine to beat down Russia. So what I did was just listed here how the United States in the West is France, Germany, and Britain, and the United States, listed the types of military provocations against Russia. So let's look up here. This upper court is called a Napoleonic Russian War. Napoleon tried to get into Russia because Russia is twice the size almost of the U.S. and they have vast natural resources. And that's why the Europeans to this day have been trying to get in to break Russia down, because the United States said we want to break it up into 25 pieces so we can steal it from it. So they went with Napoleon tried. Operation Unthinkable, 1945. British Chief of Staff planned to attack Russians in Germany. You go down to the second one, Operation Pike, 1930 to 1940. U.S., France was planning to destroy Russia's facilities. Plan Totality, 1945. A plan for nuclear attack on the Russian 20 to 30 atomic bombs on 20 Russian cities by the United States. All of these were planned. Now you could say they didn't do it. They were planning to do it. Operation Rollback, 1946. U.S. reduced USSR Russia influence. Covert espionage, sabotage, subversion. They've been at this. Operation Drop Shot, 1949, 1947 was a plan by the U.S. to bomb with 300 nuclear bombs, 30 highly explosive on target cities in the Soviet Union, 100 cities in the industrial base. They had plans to destroy Russia.
30,000.
Allied intervention. Now, you go to the left side, you will see Allied intervention of Russia, 1917 to 1925. What happened during World War I, when Russia was fighting against Germany, there was a civil war between the Tsar, who was like a king, and the communists. That civil war that broke out, the Tsar had to withdraw their troops. So the Tsar was cousin to one of these British, but Russia at that point had like a Tsar or king feudal, so they had a war. They pulled out. But United States, England, France, and Japan attacked Russia, trying to fight on the side of the Tsar against the communists, Lenin and them. And they called it the Allied intervention of Russia. 1917 to 1925, Russia was invaded by the United States, UK, France, and Japan. So they know what it is to be invaded. See, Burkina Faso is going through the same thing. Then you had the German-Russian World War I, World War II. Now, as we wind down on the page, Russia had two wars, two Chechen wars. After World War II, Chechen War number 1, from 1939 to 1945. United States, you know those jihadists that you hear about that's in the Sahel? United States instituted a certain group of these jihadists to attack Russia. So Russia had to fight these jihadists from 1939 to 1945. And they lost because they weren't equipped. So you had the first jihadist war, first Chechen war, was from 1994 to 1996. Russia lost it. Those jihadists that were put there by the United States. They had a second Chechen war, 1999 to 1909, Russia won. So Russia knows what it is to be attacked and re-attacked. And the Ukraine-Russian war was admitted by the West to weaken Russia. So if we can weaken Russia, Russia can assist China to war. We're going on to the next page. We have 4 pages left. This next page is the Berlin and Brussels Conference of 1885-86. It's critical because that's at the time that when you look look at who attended, it was mainly the European countries that have colonies. You want to know who attended? Look at a map of Africa who took colonies. So I'm concentrating on Russia, 1885-1886. After the Berlin Conference, the Ethiopians sent a mission to St. Petersburg in 1886 to ask Russia to help us because Italy is trying to take over Ethiopia. So the Ethiopians came. They came to Russia, St. Petersburg, 1886, right after the Berlin Conference, for diplomatic support from Russia. It was usually called the Soviet Union. Military support, strategic alliance, political alliance, to limit colonization. So whatever Russia's intent of helping Ethiopia, they helped it. And that's why Ethiopia was not taken over by Italy. What military assistance did they give Ethiopia by the Soviet Union? This is what they say. Several cannons, 5,000 sabers, 30,000 rifles, 5 million rounds. So they armed the Ethiopians to give them equal amount of firepower as the Italians did. That's why we in Africa why the Europeans were able to come in, because they had gunpowder. So the Ethiopians, the Russians gave you military assistance. Then they had the war. The Italian, Ethiopian battle, and it was the Battle of Awa, 1896. The Ethiopians defeated the Italians. The Italians, they said, had 17,000 troops. The Ethiopians put 135,000 troops in. It is that fact that they were able to get ammunition and other things, and their army had the same firepower. Russia sent military assistance. They sent a Red Cross unit there. They sent Russian advisors and volunteers. They helped Ethiopia. The lady, when that thing, she conveniently forgot that. World War II. Russia lost 28 million dead. There were African American soldiers that were taken out of Africa, Senegal, and when they fought. They lost over 100,000. So the two groups that lost most of the people, Russia lost 25 million, and the Africans who were forced to fight for the French, they lost a couple of 100,000. But when you talk and you listen to the people here, America won the war. They came into the war 6 months after the thing was over. Soviet Union, 1940. African Liberation Movement. That's when we were fighting for independence around 1920, 30, 40, 50. The whole bit. African Liberation Movement. Anti-colonialism. Ideological and military association. Undermine Western influence, solidarity with Africa, diplomatic recognition, economic aid, technical assistance, infrastructure development. What they're telling you is during your liberation movement, the Russians, Chinese, North Koreans, and Cubans were the only one that helped you. Against who? The United States and the European people. You forgot that part of it. African liberation, who assisted you? China, Cuba, North Korea, and Russia. Who did you fight against? Who was against you? Europe, United States, and Israel was an assistant there. In the Berlin and Brussels conference, United States sent 3 delegates. They always tell you, oh, we didn't do anything. 3 delegates, John Casson, Henry Sanford, and Hindley Stanley. They were official diplomats sent from the United States. They sat at the Berlin and Brussels conference. They recognized the Belgian Congo, what they were doing there. They assisted and helped the Germans against you in Namibia, and they took Liberia as a colony. You go to the next page. We only got 3 more to go, and we wind down and we can get discussion and answer the question. Now, we're going to talk about Mali, Burkina Faso, and the Sahel nation. And it's going to be a summary of what they did and how you get rid of those people who hurt you. Remove, when they made the coup, they removed all foreign military bases. French, US, NATO, UN, European Union, all European troops in your country gotta go. They asked Traor'e, France, they said France asked them, can we be friends? Can't you let me put troops in there? I want to be your friend. They said, Traor'e said, okay, that's fine. You're friends with the United States. You're friends with Germany. You're friends with Italy. Did any one of these countries give you a military base? Why don't you get military base from your friend? So they got rid of the military bases, nationalized all the natural resources. Now you have the military have security. So you confederate, they join together, we're going to fight together, common foreign policy, common domestic policy, collective military structure, common passport, common bank, eliminate CFAs, the French franc, common currency, independent foreign policy with the Allies, infrastructure, agriculture, energy, industrialization, all the things you need to give your people. You ask them, what do they want? The same damn thing you got here. Running water, good quality food, all of the things that the United States has to offer that Africans made it possible. Okay. What is the relation of some of these countries to Burkina Faso, Mali, and Nigeria? China. So now you have to get rid of them, but now you got to get security. You got to get guns and everything to help you. The reason Burkina Faso, one of the major reasons, is able for them to do what they had to do. Not taking away anything. When they went and then killed Gaddafi, they took 9 months to bomb him. Soviet Union said, Putin said, I wasn't strong enough to protect Gaddafi. Now, you will see who the Sahel can go to for military assistance to counterbalance the United States and the Europeans. So China, they went to get military equipment right away, and they're going to help with infrastructure. Chad is going to join. Ethiopia, they buy military equipment and drones. Ghana, they have an alliance with them to help them build infrastructure. Kenya is totally hostile to Burkina Faso because the president of Kenya, Ruto, is a billionaire. He come from poverty. How the hell did he get $2 billion? Is it all of them damn deals he made with the Europeans selling out the country?
And 650 to invade Haiti.
Burkina Faso, Mali, and Nigeria, they're building their country with their natural resources. They don't go to IMF for a loan. But Kenya, the last thing they said was they were in debt for $42 billion in debt to the IMF and World Bank. And every year, 1/3 of everything they made go for that loan. And, okay, we'll get it. So he asked the question, why? You look him up. He got hotels, he got airplanes, he got everything. So he's one of the who come to the United States. Okay. Morocco. They have what they're going to call Moroccan Sahelian Transportation Corridor. What it means is, if you go back to your map, go back to the page 3, the map of Africa. No, it's right here. It's the 3rd page in. You see the map of Africa, right? See this map? When these 3 countries get the map, confederated. What do they mean confederated? Get together for protection. The United States government made a decision, the 13 colonies. Why did they make a decision to confederate, to pool their resources? Because 2 reasons. One, they needed a collective defense against France, against Britain. And second, they had to work out a deal about the economy. There only were 2 issues that the Constitutional Convention had in the United States, and the only 2 issues that the U.S. Constitution deals with exclusively is how is the 13 colonies going to relate to each other. And they confederated to try to build a military bloc to protect themselves against Britain. economy. What was the economy of the 13 colonies? Who did the work?
Black folk.
It was slavery. The economy of the United States, from its inception up until yesterday, it was slavery. The cotton and everything. The economy of the 13 colonies was slavery. And that's why the slave issue is there. So the three countries pooled their resources because they were under threat. When they made the coup, ECOWAS joined together. I don't want to go into too much detail and deviate, but they had to protect themselves. If you would think, because when Nigeria made the independence, right? Nigeria was one of the 3 Sahel nations that have uranium. France was getting, that president, Bassoum, was selling uranium, some of the highest grade uranium, for 80 cents a kilo. On the international market, it was going for $250 a kilo. In other words, you can buy this from me for 80 cents. But the damn thing costs everybody place else in the rest of the world, you gotta pay $250. They were getting uranium free. France was taking that uranium, they have 52 nuclear reactors, and putting that uranium in their reactor to light up electricity for France, to run their industry, and to put in their nuclear reactors, and they were selling electricity to Italy, the UK, to Germany. And they were selling. So in other words, that energy source, put France in almost a depression. So it was because of that uranium in the coup, they asked all of the puppet, what you call a guy from Nigeria and the rest of them, block them, cut off the electricity, don't let them have access to ports. So you see these 3 nations, in order for them to get things up and out, they had to pass through these countries here. These countries blocked their access to the ocean because the white man told them. The president of Nigeria, according to their records, has got a criminal record and he works with the CIA here. I didn't say it. They said it. So we know what Morocco did? Morocco said to the Sahel nations, let's sit down and talk. We'll give you access north so you can get your things out to the general world to speak. We'll give you access to the Atlantic Ocean and to the Mediterranean Sea. That's what Morocco did. It's smart. Okay, so we got to go back. So there's certain things that, okay. Let's get back there so we can finish up. Then we can get into question and answers. And that's really where things get cleared up. Okay, so that's what Morocco did. And then you see the guy on TV. Are Moroccans Africans? You know what Morocco? You ever seen King Mohammed VI? He's about, what you call this? Can't think of the word. Complexion? He looks like he got your complexion. He got red complexion in mine. How the hell you gonna look? If that man came here, he's a Puerto Rican. He's a Mexican. He's a light-skinned black man. You know what they do to us. Look at King Morocco. The 7, the 6. Is he African? He's just a light-skinned African man. But they try to play games. Oh, the Arabs. The Arabs, most of Gaddafi, they're Arabs. Look, you go into Cairo, you think you in Harlem. And then most of the Nubians are up, going towards Egypt, up. But Cairo is New York. So they playing the game as Morocco. So he said, look, we're hooking up. Okay, so that's what Morocco did. Cuba gives military assistance, technological assistance, and help. Rwanda does military assistance, technology. Senegal is allied with them. Turkey, military drone, Venezuela, military technology. We're going to go on to the next page. We're winding down there. 2 more pages, and then we're finished with the formal presentation. Now, the last page is going to give you a little idea of what Traor'e asked for. The 9th page is this page. You see it? Because it gives you a start. I decided to take my time to dig this up to give you a start on it. Then I come back to each of you and then say, what have you dug up to advance us? That's what we exchange. Okay. In 1945, when the Bretton Woods, 1945, World War I II is over. Every country in Africa is colonized. The 45 countries that did not exist in Africa, everyone officially was a colony except for Ethiopia. And when you look you go to the literature and you look who sat in the Berlin, who sat on the Bretton Woods Conference, and who sat on the UN, United Nations. United Nations was created by the United States, France, and UK. And what did Richard Pryor say? For white people, of white people, and by white people. The United Nations were put together by white people, and those, when you look at the list, every one of the African countries who signed, there were 4. Liberia was under the colony of the United States. Ethiopia was the only one officially independent. Egypt was under the British, and South Africa was under the whites. So at the Bretton Woods, at the time of 1944, when the United States was going to take dominance, every African country was a colony. Every Caribbean country was a colony. Every Asian country was under attack. The British had India, Pakistan, Chiang Kai-shek was here. The world was in a colonial. Not most of the countries that there are 196 so-called independent countries, they all were colonies. Every African, almost every Asian, every Central South American. How the hell are you going to be a colony in 3 white countries, United States, France, and make up the UN? And that's why the most important part of the UN is the Security Council dealing with international affairs. So they did, what's this thing that the president did? The union is something they did after World War I. I can't think of it, but anyhow, it turned in, It turned into the United Nations. Those 3 countries made it. Then they did the Bretton Woods.
League of Nations.
League of Nations. You look up the League of Nations, you'll see when it was started, right after the war, who started it, and what was it for. It had nothing to do with it. That's white people, those white Americans and the English and the French. Then they created the union, for white, of whites, by whites, with all of the power there. Okay, so if you look at this page, you'll see economic, the IMF, everybody had to use the US dollar. That's when they decided in Bretton Woods that the world has to trade with the US dollar, right? Well, the Africans didn't have a damn thing to do with it. They were all colonies, most of Europe. That dollar was only for the, they tell you right there and then, for the trade of the Canadians, the Americans, and the Europeans. That had nothing to do with you. You had to use the US dollar for trade. Africa didn't have to use the US dollar. They were all colonies. They were being stolen from. So 1945, the Bretton Woods, but the French said, I'll be damned. My 15 African colonies in Africa, I'm not going to let them do business with the dollar and America and make the money off of them. So they say the goal, but whoever did it, they give the date in Christmas, 1945, when the Europeans decided to do the safer. You know, the US, the safer. So that means the 14 African countries under French control normally would have traded, but they said, no, you got to use my money. So after World War II, up to whatever number you want for 1920, after World War II up to 2000, no, excuse me, the what you call this thing? The Bretton Woods. The US dollar must be used in trade, 1945. And the thing was, the European countries say, why are we going to use your dollar? I got a bigger gun than you. Plus, I got more gold than you. So I'll make it sweet. For every dollar that I, US, print, because you're going to use my money, my paper, I will have, you can come with, let's just 35 of US pieces of paper, and I'll give you 1 ounce of gold. That was the deal to use the US dollar, that the European could trade that, get 1 ounce of gold if you gave the Americans back 35 US dollars. I get 35 US dollars from US, I got it here, it's paper. I don't want this. I only use it with the guarantee that you, America, if I give you back 35 of your pieces of paper, you're going to give me 1 ounce of gold. And then so the story goes, they say, why the hell are we doing this? Because the United States said, that's the way I want it. And then, remember now, that Bretton Woods had got nothing, the Africans, the Asians, everybody's locked down as a colony. So somebody said, as it goes, okay, before we agree to it, that's France and that's UK and a few other Canada they threw in there. How do you know we got gold? How do we, Europeans, that Bretton Woods for Europeans, United States, Canada, Britain, France, Australia, their white clique, sat down and said to America, why should we go along with it? Because I got most of the gold. So somebody must have said, show me the gold. You don't need to see the gold, do you? And then the guy in France, Reverend, you can't make this shit up. You don't need to see the gold. Oh no, we don't need to see the gold. And that was 1945. And that's why in 1971, why did the United States go up the gold thing? Because the European countries, gold standard, the European countries. Remember, all of this from 44 to 1971, you and I ain't got a damn thing to do with it. That's the United States, France, Australia, the white countries. They say it right in the paper. So, the Vietnamese War broke out. So therefore, the United States said that they had X amount of gold. And they calculated up with this amount of gold you say you got, but you don't want me to see it. I don't want to see it. You're only supposed to print up 1 million pieces of paper. So the United States printed up more and more and more. It reminded me of reading at the time when they had the stock market. And this guy wanted to buy, this guy was selling stock. And you, Ray, come and say, I want to buy all the stock of this company here. I'm selling the stock. And so I told Ray that there's only 1,000 pieces of stock. And then when he buys up the 1,000, the guy just kept continue to make more stock. So he's telling him, you told me 100, you took my money, so what you gonna do? So the point I'm making is, it came to a point that France and the rest of them say, well, how could you print up so much money? All this paper you sending around, we know based upon the amount of gold you say you have, but you wouldn't let us see it. You should only print up 1 million pieces of paper. You printed up 5. So they said they want their gold back. And that was one of the things to go back. Like I said, the United States said, you don't need to see it. What did Trump say when they went to Fort Knox and the other place?
Where'd it go?
Where is it go?
So what you telling me?
There wasn't none there.
There's no gold there? There's no gold in what they call that? Fort Knox? Fort Knox and another place, ain't no gold.
45 Monty.
So how the hell, after all of these years of the United States stealing, Filipino, every country they steal, everybody's gold. And What's that general who sets up against Traor'e? Langley. He got a nerve to say that Traor'e was using the gold for them. He's an idiot because they told him to say it. Traor'e showed you the big gold, the massive gold they're building up. And then you turn around and find out you ain't got none. Where did the gold go? So you see who you're dealing with, right? The rest of the world know who these people are. They are the Germanic tribes that we're going to talk about that came down, the Mackie said, and destroyed the Roman Empire. The ones who were army ants, they didn't build, they didn't agriculture. So anyhow, it went off the gold standard because the United States couldn't prove it. So that ends that. Okay. So the point I'm making, we're going to wind up. The point I'm making is, at that time, you will use the dollar. And it was only the Europeans, because the Africans couldn't use it, the Asians, the Central South, they're all colonies. That's the white clique. We work in the world. So we got it cut up. Let's live good. And that's exactly what the United States and Trump is trying to do. And then they call that World Economic Forum. You heard of that? Yes. And when you look it up, they tell you the World Economic Forum is a private NGO made up of the elites who run the Western countries. Australia, New Zealand, Canada, United States, England, France, Germany, Netherlands, all those European countries who got rich off looting everybody. Now that the world is changing, they block themselves together and say, how are we going to stop this change? So the point I'm making, we're going to go right here, is that at that time, the money that the people were using was the US dollar. Who kept everybody in line was the United States and NATO. They go around killing and destroying countries. You saw it with Gaddafi and the rest of them.
Intimidation.
And politically, the UN. So they control you through the UN. Now let's rev up tonight to 2025. Economically, the BRICS countries doing regional growth and barter, they make up most of the economy of the world. The United States and the rest of them are going. The military, Russia, China, North Korea, and Russia, China, North Korea. Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran are in a military alliance. Formal. And there's nothing can beat that. And politically, the BRICS. So Traor'e, soon as he make the coup, he go to China, go to Russia, he get the guns and machine guns, he gets the jeeps, he gets the satellites, he gets the drones, everything to protect yourself. Gaddafi couldn't do that. When Traor'e went to Russia, they said that Russia sent over about 130 or 40 planes, they don't say how, to monitor the space over the Sahara. Because they know the white people are going to put the jihadists on it. When he went over there, Russia sent in X number of hundreds or thousands of extra troops. North Korea sent, they say, 700 troops. So in other words, the number is not important. Russian troops are in Burkina Faso, helping protect Burkina Faso, has their own military. But Russian troops are helping to protect Burkina Faso. The president, the government, the infrastructure. The Russians are there helping to protect it. The North Koreans are there. The Venezuelans are there, and Cubans. That's what you know of. So Traor'e and the Sahel have these powerful countries who can help protect them. They got satellites and everything. That's the difference between why the Sahel is going to be prosperous. They know what they have to do, but they need that military protection ward off the United States and the rest of them. Now, the Burkina Faso and the rest of them are going to build up their own military force. In this page, in one more page, the bottom part, let's go back to the map. Go back to your map. You're getting a snapshot of how the world has changed already. They don't run, the Europeans don't run, the United States don't run, the United States is broke. They've been living off a credit card. Just like you live off a credit card when somebody has to use your currency. You see this map? Everybody see the map, right? Just let's look at what I want to show you. And I look in.
Man.
Let her look so she'll see.
You seen it on your map?
She get the map? Yeah, but I want to show you something. You see, most of Europe and the United States dealt with the western part of Europe, of Africa, because that's what they have access to. But because Asia is developing, you see the east coast of Africa? This whole area is still going to be powerful, but a large percentage of the trade that Africa will do is going to be done with Asia. See these ports all along here, all the way down here. So what the Indians are doing, the Indians know the writings on the wall. So the Indians, which we'll read it, went to these African countries and said, can I join with you on a joint military union? So the Indians now want to be part of the African military coming up. So when you look back on this page, the Indian government, just a month or so, had a massive military drill with these African countries, Comoros, Dar es Salaam, Djibouti, Kenya, Madagascar, Mauritius, Mozambique, South Africa, Tanzania. Those are the countries that have ports here. So the Africans are now beginning to develop their ports and everything for the trade to Asia. Ain't nobody trading with Europe. Europe doesn't have anything to trade. Nobody's trading with the United States because the United States, what you gonna get from the United States?
Cut their nose
So,
to spite.
pardon me?
They cut their nose to spite.
Yeah, it's only, they're out of it. The global trade, the global world trade, 70 to 80% is by Asians and Africans. Now, the United States is the backwater. Now, let's do the last page here to show you what Traor'e, some of the things, presumably, that he asked for. Okay, says the page. Burkina Faso and Russia. Now, Russia flew President Traor'e from Burkina Faso to Russia. And there's a set of Russian planes for the big guys, big men and women. The president, the foreign minister, the whole thing. So Traor'e got on the plane with his crew. And they were flown from Burkina Faso to Moscow with 4 of the most advanced fighter jets, escort. Ain't nothing gonna touch him. He lands, and then we gotta get into it at a later time, because at the time, every year on May the 9th, Russia has the massive parade to remember the 26 million people who were killed. Okay? And most of the people who send delegates to Russia are Asians and Africans. The Europeans don't send anymore. And there were 39 heads of state, they said, that visited. Now remember, there's a picture that we used to show of the Theodore Roosevelt on a horse. When you come to the Museum of Natural History, they took it away. When you come to the Museum of Natural History, this way, it used to be on the front door, the world to see. Theodore Roosevelt riding on a horse, and to the right, that is an African in rags, an indigenous there. What are they telling you? We're running the show. When Traor'e came to put the rose on the memorial, they came in waves. So when you see the picture, you will see when you see the picture, she's where Traor'e was. And to his left is Putin. And to her left is the head of China. So what is the message that Russia is sending to the world? That this African got his back, and look at the level at which we deal with. Instead of a bunch of okay, you see what they did?
The sophistication and technology.
Russia is saying we're dealing with Africa as equal. Because Russia is going to make plenty of money. But Africa is going to get what it wants. People say, well, Russia wants. Everybody has to trade with Africa, or you won't be in business. Remember the 8 things that Africa gives to Europe and China.
The uranium, the cobalt.
First, is gas and oil, coal and wood, things for energy. The second thing is food, fertilizer, minerals, and uranium. The ministry of Finland, Germany, and Italy, when the coup hit 2020, 2022, 2023, those 3 nations said they're closing down their embassies. But now you see where the Sahel is. They're not closing down the embassies. They never left. And they asked the embassy of Finland, what's the name? Italy, and Germany, why are you opening up? They said the same thing that we said, and you can't get away from it. All the lies about President Trump, all those shithole country. And then he said, oh, that's about making money. It's a shithole country. You're telling people you're going to see how poor the United States and Europe going to be when you don't get anything. You know Nana Dix, right? Stone Pan-African who already passed. He had the best idea. He said, low tide, go shut the damn water down. Don't let anything come out. And you're going to see what's going to happen to the economies here. So each one of the ministers from the mission, why didn't you leave? The reality is, the Sahel is there to stay. They're getting backing from most of the people in the world. You see the response that African people did to all over the world? Even the Muslim elder, Farrakhan, right. He asked the question, should we ask our 400,000 black men and women who serve in the military to come out to the military and deal with this? In other words, he said, you want another damn civil war? So, those 3 countries said, you know why? He said, well, the Sahel is here to stay. They got more oil than the Arabs. They got massive amount of gold. They got everything. That's what kept Europe going. The former president of Prime Minister of France, whatever his name said, without Africa, France is a second world country, not a third world, a second. They have nothing. You know what they said? They said the same thing we've been saying. 2050, 1 out of every 3 or 1 out of every 4 human beings on earth is going to be an African. They're all young. 5 said they have, what she said next, they have, that, see, notice what we said about how important human beings are? And then I always use the analogy when I said a friend of mine asked me about how important billionaires are. I said, they're not important. Who's important? I said, you had one. You had one and you have one. What are you talking about? Your mother. Your mother died. So you had her, but she's still with you. If she's like, my mother will visit me often.
The presence of a woman.
So he said, what are you talking about? I said, I always use this analogy. Let all the people on earth have all the sex you want, but no babies.
Got a problem.
Then what you going to do in 100 years? You won't have a human race. The most important part of humanity, like everything, is the next generation. Of course, the ball game is over. So they keep emphasizing. You see what France, what's the name, Canada's doing? My God, please come. You can come now. We need big help. The human thing. So that's why they each contend. That young youth. They did a survey. What group of people are on the internet the most? The Chinese is number 1. The Europeans are number 2, and the Africans are 3 on the internet. You know, the things, so, and they move that information. So all the propaganda that the United States know is moot. Because Russia, what's his name, Traor'e was given interviews on Russia, and he was given a history. So he explained to the world what everybody, this all that negative propaganda that they're doing to give Bill Cosby and that's to destroy our image. We know that, but that's nothing. You see the outpouring on Traor'e, you touch him and you see what's going to happen. Burn down every damn thing in Africa that got a U.S. name on it. So, it's the youth. We walk the street and white people look at us, they envy your skin. How much melanin? I don't give a damn how dark you are or light. As long as you got enough that you don't wrinkle, you're all right. It's no quantitative amount. You want to get some more? Just go down, go in the sun. You got, yes.
They're taking an inch off of even prisoners in squares to use it as spray tan. So our melanin is even worth 400. It's almost equivalent to the gold on the market.
Okay. We got to do Q and that melanin is everything. So everybody who understands global, so the Italians, the Germans, and the Finnish said, look, we're going with Africa. I don't give a damn what the United States said. If we want these things, Africa. The United States got nothing for us. So let's look at what Traor'e, they say he asked for, so you know the military equipment, military training, military security, troop equipment, surveillance, technology, drone, satellite technology, military industrial complex. They're going to make their own weapons. Now there's a meeting I just took it, I see something. The Africans got together in Rwanda, and they're going to put together a Pan-African army, so that if they're, let's say those jihadists, so the Africans are no longer going to the United States or Europe or for anything weapon. That's why they're closing the bases. So they're saying we each have our military, but we need to put a central military so that anybody who even attempts to come here and don't do right, we can take care of them. Okay? They're talking already. Okay, so technology, energy, solar panel, solar farm, portable nuclear reactor. You know how they take a portable nuclear reactor and put it in a submarine. And they put it in a ship, aircraft carrier. And therefore it has energy for what, 30 years. So what they're going to do to the Sahel in Africa, while you're building your gas and your oil lines, if you want the energy, Russia makes small nuclear reactors, and then you plug it into your electricity grid. So let's say you need a certain amount of electricity to build this massive factory, but it's 25 miles away from the nearest big line. So all you have to do is tap it into a small line and hook it up. And you now have enough electricity to do whatever you want. So what they're doing is they're doing the hydroelectric power, they're doing the solar panel, and they want this portable nuclear reactor. Russia has these in the Arctic for energy in their cities because you can't run no electricity here, but the nuclear reactor. Okay, so that's what they're getting. Okay, energy, portable nuclear plant technology. They want a nuclear reactor. Russia said when they finish building that nuclear reactor, the Africans will have the technology to build their own. Infrastructure, dams, irrigation, and here's the payment. See, with this guy from Kenya, Ruto, he took all these loans and stuffed them in his pocket, sold the country out. So payment with natural resources, gold for Russian companies. Remember you asked about what they gonna get? You got some gold, but you want to build us a whole industry, you're gonna help us build our own weapons? They're flying some of the latest jet fighters, Russian jet fighters. Guess who's flying them? The women.
The women.
The women in Burkina Faso are flying the modern jets.
Go.
So every time you see a jihadist that raids your village, the women. Boy, okay, payment, natural resources. We give you gold for the lithium for agricultural technology. And why Burkina Faso is producing so much food is because you now have access water, you got gym, and those big things. You see how you farm? You can't, if you only do it by hand, it's subsistent for what you in the village. They're selling food. They're giving food away.
Tomato plants.
2 tomato plants. Industrialization. That's why they always told Africa, don't industrialize. There's a treaty. I forgot the name. The treaty, 50 Africans sat down with European, and the North, they signed the treaty. The Africans signed this treaty so that you won't ever get a nuclear plant. Nuclear plant produce energy. France got 55 of them. The United States has about 60. Why the heck? Because they didn't want you to have the energy to produce, to manufacture, and then put the infrastructure. But it's not, it's going to go. Lithium, uranium infrastructure. Mining, military industrial complex, military alliance, BRICS membership. Burkina Faso, demolition #1, IMF, borrow. Okay. They're going to borrow. The Africans are going to sit down and denominate how much of lithium you're going to get for this. Okay? No IMF, no World Bank, they're going to borrow, no SWIFT, so the electronic SWIFT, Russia has electronic SWIFT. Okay, and then we're going to end by talking about the last two, what Russia and Iran are doing. Russia and Iran is doing. When next time I come, we're going to show you the infrastructure, not only of Africa, but what Russia, China, and Iran are putting in the infrastructure, the railroad, to connect to Asia, to hook up. Okay, just like America, US, has got a lot of railroads and stuff to hook up. So Africa doesn't have that, but they'll have it in about 5 years. In Asia, they don't have it yet. So they're hooking up railroads, highways, to interconnect so Russia can do business with Kazakhstan, etc. So the next time I do. So here's what China is doing with Iran, and here's what Russia is doing with Iran. What happens is, Iran is here. This whole thing is Asia. Iran is here. Chabahar sits on the Indian Ocean. And what you do is Pakistan could put goods on, could put their goods in Chabahar and they run the train. India can put their goods on Chabahar. Why is that important? Because Asia is so mountainous. So if Pakistan or India want to sell something to Kazakhstan, or Pakistan and India want to sell something to Russia, you have to put in the rail system. I'll lay it out, just like you saw what the Central American countries are doing, Mexico, Nicaragua, and Colombia, how they doing alternate. So you put it on Chabahar, and you can ship it all around. Now the Asians can ship, Russia could now ship. It's critical. So that will allow Eurasia to become a powerful force, you know, because they can work with each other, move around, just like Africa. The United States is attempting to stop it. And the key to stopping the Asian infrastructure development is Chabahar port of Iran. Because they're right in the thing, you can put anything up and can get past the mountains. Okay? So Chabahar is critical. So if the United States could attack Iran, don't worry about no nuclear weapon. Because Pakistan told, or what they say Pakistan told Turkey, if you have a problem with Israel, I'll give you as many nuclear reactors, nuclear bombs as you want. So if Iran wanted a damn nuclear bomb, they can get it from Pakistan. So that is not the issue. But if you could damage that Chabahar port, you could cripple one of the most important access, the real access for Russia, Iran, China. It just, that's what they're after. Now, but ask yourself the question as we finish. What China and Russia have done with Iran. China, Russia, North Korea have been providing technology for Iran for a long time. They have the powerful thing. So this is what China just signed. So these white folks, your friends in the United States who run the country, said, we knock out Russia, knock out Iran. Okay. China and we ended here. China and Iran, in 2025, they made an agreement, a business, and nothing, not anything in doubt. They're going to do a 25-year agreement. China will invest $400 billion, big ones. Think the Chinese are going to let the United States invest that up? $400 billion US dollars equivalent in Iran's economy over 25 years, exchange for a steady, discounted supply of oil. If China can't get oil, China going to shut down. So they got to have oil, they got to have gas, they got to have nuclear. Exchange for steady discount supply of oil. $250 billion to develop the oil and gas petrochemical sector. Foreign direct investment, $120 billion, and transportation and manufacturing infrastructure. So China is going to make Iran look like what? China.
Yeah.
What's the name of this place? In Ethiopia, it's going to look like China in 5 years. 6 years, you should see it now. Burkina Faso is going to look like China. You got the infrastructure. What's the name of this place? Burkina Faso, they just found 50 billion.
Yes.
What's the trillion or billion? I think it's trillion, I don't know. They got all the oil they want.
Burkina Faso. Yeah.
Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
Nigeria got oil. Nigeria got more oil than you, and everybody in the area got oil. What do you think Russia and the rest of the people say? Man, you talk about business. Russia Okay, so what I'm saying is, that's what China's putting in. China's not gonna let the United States bomb that out. China already said, if you come to do it, China, Russia, and Iran, they have military exercises every year for 5 years, and they're all the ships are just waiting for the United States. What does Russia want? Russia just signed a treaty with Iran to fund construction of new nuclear plants in Iran. So they're giving them the nuclear plants for energy. Supply 55 billion metric a year of regional gas. So they want, Russia got so much oil, they want to make Iran a hub. We pump the oil down and you sell it to everybody. So Iran, Russia, and China are the 3 major countries that can industrialize Asia. No other Asian country can do it. They got everything there. And when they look, if we live long enough, we can go to the cities in Africa in the next 10 years. What you see in China, you will see there. Because Africans, okay, let me finish this out. So they make a regional hub, so they get nuclear plants for energy. That's what Burkina Faso wants, nuclear plant, so we can make energy. Iran, Russian company, $4 billion to develop 7 oil fields. Russia's 20-year state purchase treaty defense trade. In other words, what I wanted to mention, just go back to the page. Iran is in, Burkina Faso and the Sahel nations are in a military compact. Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. Those are the 4 most powerful countries working together, and ain't no country or countries can touch it. Russia alone is defeating the United States and all of Europe. So Traor'e said, you like oil? You like oil? You Russia. Russia, you like oil?
I got it.
You like uranium?
I got
You
it.
like gold? The country is... So what you see in China, because you see already Ethiopia, that's what you're going to see all over Africa. And China isn't only... You know that... Let's take Tesla. Tesla's not going to sell any cars in Africa. Why? Because Burkina Faso's already making.
They made a car.
They're already making the battery. They already got what you call electric car.
That's right.
Made better than Tesla, rubbing and everything. So you're not going to sell it there. And then in South Zimbabwe, you know they have, I don't remember his name, the brother who knows how to take the energy from the air.
And make water.
No, to run the car. You know there's plenty of energy in the air.
They were trying to kill him.
He damn right. But they protect him now. They try to kill him and his partner. They kill his partner.
Exactly.
So you're looking at Burkina Faso, who's already making electric cars for the country, and it's better than Tesla because it's made strong. And they said they took the engine and they gave it to an African, one of the elder farmers. He put that engine in there, and the agricultural thing works. So all they gotta do is make the engine, the engine, and you take all of those trucks, and you can get hundreds of agricultural trucks. You don't have to pay for it. It's over. The thing is over. Now, the average one of us can't just jump up and go. But I'm saying that the reason I try to put it this way to see how much the world has gotten, the United States is a bygone. So they're already making it. Now the brother in Zimbabwe, when you gonna make a car, can you make a car that just runs off of, the engine just pulls electricity out of the sky? And then they said when you park your car, then the energy. So Tesla is finished. Tesla's company was making cars in China. China has 6 major car companies making cars. So they shut the Tesla down. Tesla don't sell no car here. Ain't nobody gonna buy that. It's like the rest of the Canadians said we ain't taking no more US stuff. So China cut out Tesla. Tesla don't sell in Europe anymore because the United States jammed up Europe. So he don't sell in Europe. When Tesla was supposed to go up to sell in Canada, when they put the tariff on Canada, they banned all Tesla's cars. I worked with a Mexican lady, a Mexican man, lady who's been in the States for a few years. They got a little optical, so I covered the optical. And then when I showed her the back, she said, lady, she's about 50 or 60. She should have been an optometrist. Her father told her to finish, but she didn't finish. So when I showed her this, she said, we got land in Brazil. Look, I'm not going to sell my land. We got this and this shit. You see what I'm saying? Then she said, go to Mexico. All of the electric cars are what? Chinese. Chinese. Ain't nobody buying Tesla. Who the hell will buy Tesla when China makes a superior at half the price? And you can't sell the electric car in Africa because Africa's making their own rugged. So, see, this is what makes me dream. I see what's coming. I was in synagogue years and years ago, and you could see it's totally different now. So I put this together to illustrate what the world is doing. Now our children, I think I could say this. What the Sahel nation wants is us to the diaspora. We were told the most important thing we want is the diaspora. We want you. You see what Canada's after? See what they're after? That's what Sahel wants. They want the technical people and others to come and build the country. You could stay a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, bring in your company. See, this is the kind of, you see, we need to have an office for the diaspora. This country, we got so much talent. So that's what the diaspora wants. They want your talent. And then when you remember in Burkina Faso, you can now invest. Like, remember how you buy government bonds? Trump said, no, you can't go to Burkina Faso. It's too bad there. So they want you to play a role. So those who can come, the opportunity is there. Some of the, for instance, one of the famous football players, I don't know football in Europe, he came and he put 25 million of his US dollars in Mali, built this massive factory, hired 5,000 people. I think it's dealing with agriculture and everything. What is 5 million, $25 million? We got people buying cars for that. That's a joke. If you knew what you could do. Now that brother, because they had a big conference where they were brought back the diaspora. The Mali and the rest of them that have been around is making money, they brought them in. So what I'm saying, we can talk about in detail, if there's a question to answer, the specifics of what opportunities are here. They're asking for us to come. So we got to organize ourselves as Africans to start talking about those, what could we're talking about buying the bonds. 11%. That those who can't go, you can invest. Those who may want to go, you got a company or something, it can be set up. No problem. No problem whatsoever. So the world is changing. I'm glad for you to spend the time with us. We made an attempt to show you the type of country you're living in. This is a capitalist country. This is feudalism. You ever see Robin Hood? When the king owns everything, it's the king and the dukes. That's how this country comes. All this wealth is jammed up in the hands of these people. The country has debt. So many trillions. Where do trillions of dollars go? All these rich people, and then they hand you the bill, tax bill. But you have children and grandchildren. So we got to look at what we could develop here as a conduit to get our children and our grandchildren to go there, to go to any of the countries. Look, we went through it when we made a presentation about China after the Civil War, when from 1949 to 1920, China looked just like Burkina Faso. Russia had to put in everything. And China only got the high technology when the United States and Europe sold everything in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and they maximally used it. Africans are maximally using it. So you got agriculture, you got anything you could, there's so much there. There is so much there they need and they want. So what I want to leave you with is that Burkina Faso and the Sahel nation has Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, Venezuela, and Cuba to help them militarily and otherwise, plus whoever else is doing it we don't even know about. We only talk about what's here. And I remember as I closed, when the United States under Trump was trying to overthrow Venezuela, and then they said we got 5,000 troops. So what happened is, how did they help? China came in and worked with Venezuela to help them infrastructure, the roads, buses and stuff, and brought them up. Russia came in and they flew 4 big planes, the 2 transport planes and 2 S-160, whatever they call it. One of those planes had the personnel in it, and the other one had whatever it's carrying. Those planes shoot nuclear missiles. So what the United States was telling, what Russia was telling the United States, we put in Venezuela 2 of the most advanced fighter bombers that has nuclear capability. So that's going to kind of checkmate you on that one. Cuba, they said send 40,000 troops. Medicine, Iran, Russia, the same group helped. North Korea wasn't there at that point. So you now, when you make the coup, you now do it. And now these countries understand how it's going to be done. You saw what happened to Ivory Coast, where they were plotting against Traor'e. Traor'e said the last people tried to kill me with the European. They went back into Ivory Coast. They did the coup on Ivory Coast. Do y'all realize that?
Yeah.
They replaced them. All you gotta do is, you don't have to be afraid. You can rush at everybody and protect you. What do you have to be afraid of? Everybody understand that. People like that Tinubu in Nigeria and Ruto in Burkina, they too deep in the corruption. How do you be a billionaire and the kids can't go to school? How do you be, okay, so we can wrap it.
Okay, Imhotep, your question. You're gonna have 3 quick questions, Imhotep, go ahead. Imhotep, unmute yourself. We're gonna take 3 quick questions. Okay, Zoom audience question. Go once, go twice. Zoom audience question, go ahead.
Hey, this is Lefty Air Time Philly. I want to know what do we do here in America? As far as communicate, like how do we get communication for what's going on in the Sahel and all those without it being tamper with, you know, saying, or like propagandized.
Look, a number of us have been in direct communication with the missions, the 3 missions. The number of us, I ain't telling you who the number of us is. But we here we will and can organize seminars where we talk with each other, but not over here, not over television. So the point I'm making is we have access to the 3 missions. They've given us a charge. Then it's up to us to develop it further. Like he's saying, we got to figure out how people can now deposit money and buy the bonds. So we're doing the research. When we do that research, we can then put it on the net and expose it, develop the system. There is a possibility that they're asking for a mechanism whereby people who have ideas can come into Burkina Faso for a week, 2 weeks to teach, to go around the country and stuff. So basically, we need to build our own structures to help the Sahel, but we have to do it. The Congress people aren't going to do it. Who's going to do it? You're going to do it. Ray ain't going to do it. Y'all, we're going to do it. So we have access. Who's we? Whoever we is. We have access. And we can provide that. What we're trying to do is we want to get a location, primarily in Detroit. For there's a certain reason. Let me put it this way. I'm rambling a little bit. Whoever we are, have direct connection, communication, planning with the 3 missions. In D.C.
We got it.
We got it. Now it's for us to network.
Okay, from the floor, quick question from the floor for Doc. Going once.
Hey.
Does he have any direct contact?
We'll do you next. Let her answer a question and then we'll come back to the Zoom. Go ahead.
I know someone that has been trying for over 15 years to get the community to help him deal with his water for gas projects. So he is trying to connect with Burkina Faso and Zimbabwe. So do you have, I can put you in touch with him if you can give me the email address, because he just texted me yesterday, because I said something about Zimbabwe and what they're doing. He says, I've been talking about that for over 15 years.
The desire is here, the technology, it's a matter of having the money and others to make it a reality. You see, in this country, no, I can't say that. I can't say
The person that she's talking about,
You know him?
you'll bring him down here and we're talking.
No, he was in New York for a while. He's in Washington, D.C. right now.
Okay, well either
And he's been pushing this stuff for
the next time he comes to New York, if it's on a
over 20 years
Wednesday,
that I know about.
the next time he comes to New York, and if it's a Wednesday, we can hook up, you'll be
But
there.
you can give me your email.
Yeah, we're gonna give you all that.
Yeah.
So this is another connection.
If we had a location, let's say in Detroit, a physical building, that would be, and we set it up a certain way, you can then advertise on internet and the rest of it. There is a trip going to Burkina Faso and the Sahel. There's a mechanism for certain skilled people. So whatever we do, we got to work it out with the mission, which they will work with us, and then say, we want to start sending certain number of people in. Now, you just can't get on the plane and go, because you see what's happening in Burkina Faso and other places. So when you go, we set it up, we can advertise it, have people call in and stuff. You can go, but it has to be done a certain way, with security. You just can't jump up and go. See, the thing about it, if we had the money, and we could get a building, and then we could organize an organization, call it the Diaspora of the United States, and then we set it up. You see, Dr. Ben used to go back and forth to Egypt. And after a while, he started to take people to Egypt. And he built it up to such a way that he would take thousands in a summer. So there are a number of people who are now taking trips as a result of that. So if you get a building, we work with the missions, then they will help us to organize the mechanism. Then you might know somebody who may want to go. He comes in, we register, you okay with the mission. They may know somebody. We have to do it. We have to organize. The government isn't going to do it.
Okay.
And you know, if we had the money, we got the connection. Now we got to figure out how to make it work.
Okay.
How much money does dog need? How much you need, dog?
No, well, we're talking. We don't know yet. Gotta talk about that.
Whatever we talking, they go off the phone here, off this. We can't talk about it. It's there. It's there.
Okay, Zoom. Who wanted to say something, Zoom?
Yeah, I just want to ask about Senegal. Have they come up the fence and joined in with the Sahel states?
The best I can tell you from me reading the internet and other things, so I don't have any exclusive information. Number one,
Right.
they're saying that Chad is going to come in to formally join. Okay? They're going to sign up as a Sahel nation. Ghana, I don't know where Ghana sits, but the previous president who just left, he was the one who was there when he gave the U.S. a military base. And there are a number of things that president and his could have done, and they didn't do. And one of the things was the gold mine. He set up a gold mine, giving a foreigner the access to it, and he was asked, not Muhammad, the one before, asked, why are you giving it to a foreigner when you got already gold fields owned by indigenous people you're not using? So what Ghana did was, it did exactly what Burkina Faso did. They stopped all gold going out. They now have a gold board, and they're now beginning to refine the gold themselves. And in 4 months, just stopping the gold from going out and doing it, Ghana earned $3 billion in 4 months. That would have gone to foreigners. Ghana's debt to the IMF is $3 billion. So they can get right out of that. So what I'm saying is, so for Ghana, from what I've been reading, Ghana is now going to work with Burkina Faso. They're going to build up the rail systems, the gas lines, the oil lines. They said this is a public thing, so it's nothing that I know special. They're going to do airline, pipelines. They're going to put their militaries together for the jihadists. Chad says they're going to sign up officially. Senegal did the same thing. What did Senegal do? It started cutting all of the foreign contracts. Now it's refining their own oil. So many of them are doing what the Sahel is doing. Some officially signing up, and some will sign up.
That's right. Okay, one quick one, 2 minutes, Doc gonna answer. If not, we gotta get them back. Anybody else? Going once. If anybody wants a copy of this, I'll make the copy and send it to you, where you can go back over all the...
I would like a copy of it.
Okay.
Let me just make one point that the young lady said. We are in contact, and we people are in the process of securing a physical property and getting the proper information from the missions and from the other people here to have a formal diaspora organization recognized by the mission and properly done by the laws of the United States of America. So then at that point, we can then move people legitimately, give advice and stuff like that. That's what we need, and we're working on it. So it's going to come.
Okay,
Ray,
yeah.
could you repeat how we can get a copy on YouTube?
No, I'll get you one. You know how we'll hook up on at Trust's group, and I'll get your address and send you a copy. That's no problem. From now on, William Mackey name will not be associated. The name of the group is the BK Mackey History Club. I'm gonna change everything, African Helping Africans. I'm gonna change all the lectures onto the BK Mackey History Club, where you could go over, this next lecture is gonna be under the BK Mackey History Club, where you could do the research, and that name will no longer be associated. So if anybody has one more thing for Doc while we cleaning up, you could ask.
Let me clarify again. I'm going to clarify for another time. There is a group of us in the process trying to secure a physical location, preferably in Detroit for certain reasons. Once we're able to do that, we will consult the missions, and they will help us on how to legally and properly structure the organizational structure so that we can deal with the missions directly, legally. Once we get that in place, then we can start pulling people in to see, so that you can see this is legal, it's organized, it's worked with the mission, and it's a conduit to help, mechanism to help to build us a house. That's how it should be done. It can't be just in, that's what we're working on.
Okay, one more second.
Okay,
Wendy, is your number does your number end in 3258?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so you could text me your address and email at csmith6528@aol.com, csmith6528@aol, and I will mail you the 10-page Dr. Lewis information. Copy?
Okay, you said C. Smith?
csmith6528@aol.com.
You said Steve?
No, C. Smith.
T, like a C.
Ajuma, you don't worry about it. We got you. We got you, Big J.
Okay,
No, you don't worry about it. This is for Miss Wendy. Just text me that, and I'll mail it to you. This is gonna be continuation. Nothing. We're just starting everything to start this thing. So give Dr. Lewis a great big hand. And once I switch everything over, you can actually start from the docu-series part 1, and it's gonna be so much docu-series on what's going on, it's gonna be unbelievable. We're working, but we're getting on the move here for the grandkids.
Yeah, and again, once we get the building, we're gonna get.
All right, let me shut this off, Doc.
Get it legal. We get the necessary